Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Buy Round interview show. Now, fresh off the back of the Matty Johns guest
appearance.
That was the warm-up act.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's what I said when I came in. I said, didn't you have Matty Johns last week? Of course, I listened. And I guess if it was a comedy show, I guess he's supporting me.
He's the supporting act. That is for sure. Well, I'm joined by a co-worker.
Yeah,
fellow
that's
Shire
right.
resident,
Come on,
fresh off recording,
colleague,
work colleague,
cast member,
a man that's got aspirations as well.
Is that me or you?
That's you.
Oh, right.
Which I want to find out about.
Yeah.
Because we're going to come to our little working together.
Yes.
But there's aspirations to become Sharks' #1 fan.
Oh, well, there's just been a lot of people putting it out there to me at the moment. You know what I mean? Like, I've only got 14,000 followers on Instagram, but they're quality. You know what I mean? I can feel them. And in the last year or two, there's been a real tailwind around me becoming meaning I got 3 or 4 DMs in the last kind of couple of years from a couple of guys living in Caringbah on their own, going, I reckon it's you, Brendo. So that's a tailwind as far as I can tell. But no, because Scott Morrison, who the first thing he was Sharks #1 ticket holder, and the second thing he was the Prime Minister. And he retired his position a couple of weeks ago when we played the Bulldogs to what could be called an anticlimactic response. I don't think the Sharks crowd are never that verbal anyway, which is something that I would, love to change. I'd love to get something going down there. And then I turned around, to the manager and the media manager and said, I've got a collared shirt on. We could just do it now. We could just head out there now. And they giggled. So that was so since then I've had some calls from some guys at SEN and a few things on the DMs going, surely it's you, Brendo. So,
well, look, there was an article in the paper, the Sunday Telegraph a couple of weeks ago, which Hollywood celebrity is trying to oust former Prime Minister. It's a big
I don't know if it was Hollywood. I think there's a local radio presenter,
yeah.
Yeah. He's in one of those shows where it's something and someone and someone, those shows. And I think he's vying for it as well.
Oh.
If the universe chooses me, I kind of think, has anybody else made a TV show about a Sharks player? I don't know. You know what I mean? I've been there. I played for him, since I was 4 years old. I don't know what else. I can do, Jimmy. Do you think I deserve it?
I don't know. What I want to know,
wow, that's underwhelming.
Is what actually is it?
I have no idea. I think #1 ticket holder, I guess it means you get a ticket.
But #1 ticket holder, I don't know. Is it a made up title? I suppose all titles
teams have them? Or is it just a Sharks thing?
Well, I thought it was just because he's the Prime Minister, or he's the #1 ticket holder, or he was the Prime Minister.
I think it might be something taken from another sport. Maybe it's from English football or something that they've kind of put into the Sharks team. I mean, it's a very parochial place, Cronulla in the Sutherland Shire. I think there's 70 shires in Australia, but Sutherland Shire is the Shire. You know what I mean? We're like, no, we're the Shire. And
great place to live, by the way.
Oh, mate, it's unbelievable. It's an amazing place to grow up. And I guess that was part of why I made Plum there. It was a bit of a love letter to my upbringing and to the Cronulla Sharks. But yeah, I love it because I wear the gear everywhere. I endorse them and I think about them all the time. I'm always reading about how many weeks till that ankle injury heals. And I think about Nico a lot, as I'm sure most people do. And, I go down there and support them and probably even more since I moved to London 8 years ago because rugby league's on in the morning and sometimes it's hard to watch at night because you got things on. So it was so good to do a little workout, have your coffee and then watch 4 hours of rugby league, from 8 till 12. It was like, this is the best setup. But yeah, I love my Sharks and I'd love to get in there and help with the entertainment. And You know, they've got the Viking clap. Like, I think we could get some kind of Jaws, Sharks, kind of this kind of vibe.
Yes.
Kind of burn out, you know, and get
100%.
And that could be, if they gave me the position, that's the first thing I'd do.
Yes.
Would be to get out there and go, okay, I've got to teach you something. Get me on the screens.
Galvanise the crowd.
Galvanise with a Sharky song.
Me.
Even if we had a bit of techno, you know, because I remember I went to...
Like, it's not just a title. You'd be like, I've got this title, but also I'm going to be the Shark.
Yeah. I'll jump the shark. And like when I went to Jets or Giants Stadium in New York, I don't know, I'd been tailgating all afternoon, but it was 110,000 people in green shirts. Favre, which one did he play for?
Green
Jets?
Bay.
No.
Favre was Green Bay, wasn't he?
I thought he played for the Jets. Anyway, the NFL one, went there, 110,000 people in green. They cut off the beer at halftime. And I said to a guy, what's the go here? And he goes, it's for your own safety. And I went, okay, because when they start losing, a lot of these guys, you know, on the fringes, you don't want that. And I'm like, okay. And I looked around and went, yeah, fair enough. Like, but the guy down there with the trumpet, Fireman Joe or something, he'd do the trumpet sound. And then out of nowhere, 10 seconds later, it would be Jets, Jets. And 110,000 people knew the silent timing of it. And I was just like, oh, like the chills. So if I was Sharks' #1 ticket holder, I would play to my strengths. What am I good at? Entertaining. That's what I've done my whole life. I always felt very comfortable on a stage and bringing people together and making them laugh, making them think. So I'd be doing that to get some kind of shark call.
I like it because I think it's something that is underutilised in Australian sport. And obviously coming from England where the crowd plays a big part. That emotion of the crowd when your team score and you go back to the kickoff and they're jumping up and down, or you feel like you need some inspiration. The crowd can inspire, and often through singing or chant going up, you know it's your time to act.
Yeah, going to see the Sharks when we'd won the Common 16, and I went and saw them in the Challenge Cup in England, and you know, and where, you know, like many Australian teams, they didn't come away with the victory, and it was raining, and there's just full stadium of people in the rain, and they did not stop singing. And even seeing Penrith this year, and I thought, imagine if we had that atmosphere at our club games. We've got everybody watching in pubs with the Japanese beer, you know, and punting on it, but why we can't, outside of the Broncos games and the odd Warriors games, like why we can't have that at every game. More tribalness, more song. And you look at what the Viking Club's done, people do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's a huge success. I'd say half the reason why people are going, and women and kids are going, I want to do that thing at the start with the horn and the, you know, like, you just have to give them more to do. And the song, I mean, I went to a couple of Arsenal games, and, you know, the singing in the soccer is, I mean, it's still a silly sport, isn't it? They're falling over. It's always 0-0. 0-0.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, because that's probably, I've fell out. I've gone the opposite way. You moved away and your love grew stronger. I've moved away and I've sort of fell out of love with football and Everton. We'll probably be doing awful.
I don't watch soccer at all.
But with the whole, some of the songs are actually quite funny as well.
Yeah, right.
A lot of them borderline PC. When the Barmy Army come over, they have some great songs. You know, and they get stuck into players on a personal level. And it's like,
but it's wit.
It is.
And that's what I love about living in England. It's not just, oh, you bloody, you know, there's cleverness and wit, and there always has been in the vernacular. And it's part of why I love living in London, is like the person in the grocery store to the petrol station, wherever you are, you know what I mean? You learn to talk, you know, over there. That's your weapon. Your mouth's your weapon. And I love that banter over there. And the banter's nowhere better than all over England, really. You got to be ready to rock.
Yeah, well, I reckon that'd be a great introduction, or a great campaign rather, for you to be the #1 ticket holder at the Sharks. Don't quite know what it means, but
no,
I vote for Brendan Cowell.
Thank you.
If I get a flyer through the mail for anyone else,
tailwind
living in the Shire. I mean, forget it. You've got my vote, even though I don't know if I'd get to cast a vote. Maybe.
I did email Dino and said, "What's the application process?" I haven't heard back, so I think you just get plucked.
Yeah, fair enough. Onto the whole acting thing that we've just been a part of, the whole acting thing. It really did open my eyes to the world of acting and the respect for just how difficult it is.
Right.
It blew me away. Obviously, I was approached to do it. I thought it was a joke. I was waiting for the hard got you thing when I went to my first
jackass punked kind of thing.
Like, somewhat like, where's the camera to just go get him to say this?
No.
But it was an eye-opening experience, absolutely fascinating. There was the football world. There was myself, Andrew Johns, Spud Carroll. What did you make of everybody's performance?
Paul Gallen had a little cameo in episode 2. Rugby league is a working class game and it's authentic, and the people who play it and support it are authentic. Though I think the identity of rugby league is changing, isn't it? There's brands, online brands, and we're playing in Vegas. There is a shift from working class game to branded game with working class ethics. So I think it's a really interesting time for rugby league in that way. Somehow the game just keeps getting better though, which is, the wonderful thing. But I wanted to create something really authentic with Plum, so that when rugby league people watch it, they don't go, and how do you do that? Well, put rugby league in it. So I picked kind of 4 guys who for me represent what rugby league's really about. Yourself, Paul Gallen, Spud Carroll and Andrew Johns, and kind of just put you guys in there so that it would just, kind of fertilise the fabric of my show, that the real deal is in there. And I think it really worked, and you guys were all a bit gregarious. You've had time in front of the cameras to not be completely freaked out. And I thought you as a kind of hot-headed Super League coach going off his melon about this guy needing to get back on the field, I thought, I reckon he's capable of that. I mean, having watched you play, I thought if he can tap into any of that, it'll work, and it does. I've seen the cut. You're fantastic in it. Yeah. But, you were fantastic, and you enjoyed it.
I did. Well, I guess just the advice, go and be yourself.
Yeah. No, you did. And it's hard to kind of go big on telly, and that's what I was asking you to do, is those salts, the fucking salts, and to hit that level, and you did, and it felt really real.
Did the other decision makers take some convincing? Obviously, you have a lot of sway and a lot of pull, but was it difficult to convince the
networks and stuff?
Well, not just the networks, but the other crew, like the people in charge of casting, other people within the show, the other actors. Was that difficult to convince at all?
No, I mean, with you, are you fishing for compliments here? Or
No, just genuinely
having real people in the show.
No, well, let's just say it wasn't Plum, and it was a show about, I'd say it was a Home and Away, or a random novel, and you go, I'm just going to bring these ex-footballers in.
Yeah,
and you're going, what? No, let's actually use some actors that are trained to do it.
Yeah.
So how did those conversations go down in amongst the casting directors, or the people that make the call?
Well, it was kind of, I always, from book to screen, I've adapted my own novel Plum to the screen. I always said I want this to feel like a documentary. I don't want it to feel like a glossed up drama. I want it to feel like these are conversations I shouldn't be hearing between family and friends and players and ex-players. I want it to feel really uncomfortable and really real. All the stuff that you see that you shouldn't see. I want that to be the whole show. And I thought that if I can get, kind of like with kids, like before kids become adults, they don't act, and they're so candid and unbelievable. And then you can see if they act around 13, 14 when they start acting, because their intelligent adult minds kick in. And, if you can get you guys, the footy players, kind of just to not to forget about the cameras and be authentic, then it's like it'll be better than the actors, and you often see that with real people. If they don't act, then it's just, that's what actors are actually trying to do, is be that real. And we put out a lot of community casting for this show, and we tried to find people from the community, and we did for smaller parts, not for the bigger parts. And when we saw your tape for Brick, it was like, you know, and as I've said since your performance, I'm like, the thing about James, he probably could act if you wanted to. Like, I think there would be parts for you. I can see a kind of Lock, Stock kind of movie of you just kind of like a well-read hard man coming in, knocking on a door going, you know, you owe us a bit of money. Do you want to go for a little walk or something? You know what I mean? One of those guys down to the bridge. But everybody was on the mission statement with me because I said, if we're going to make it, this is how I want to make it.
Yeah.
And authenticity is key. And trust me on this. And it really works. I mean, and Joey, you know, the eighth immortal, who was texting me in the lead up going, you better bring your A game, I'm going to smash her. And I'm like, how can you smash me in a scene? Like what, you know, and he goes, this is like Origin Game 3 to me. That's how I'm preparing. That's what he was saying. It's up in Brisbane. It's under lights. You don't know what's going to hit you. And then, and then I got there and he's in this purple suit. And I won't tell you the scene because it's quite a nice surprise. He's in this purple shirt and in Centennial Park, we shot it, and he was looking at me. He goes, I've got so many butterflies. And he goes, they're just churning in my stomach. And he's like, I'm terrified, you know, and he was so nervous. It was so sweet. But how did you feel? Did it feel unnatural to you, or did it feel you felt comfortable?
It was odd. I felt a little bit out of my depth. There's some great training. I can't remember the lady who I spoke to a couple of days.
Felicity.
Yeah, Felicity.
Judd,
yeah, she was amazing. She gave me so much help. Because I guess, look, not having any training, my only real training is for acting is through watching, like we spoke about, The Trip.
Yeah.
And, you know, the costume
Rob
drama.
And
Rob Brydon and Steve Coogan. Yeah.
We will rise at dawn.
Gentlemen to bed.
Yeah.
Gentlemen to bed, for we leave at first light. Tomorrow we battle.
Maybe a bit after first light. Yeah.
We may lose our lives, but remember this: death but be a moment. Cowardice is a lifetime of affliction. To bed.
See, ladies and gentlemen, Logies. Logies.
I think a costume drama with that dead look in your eyes because you've seen so many horrors.
Well, that's what I was thinking, was be yourself, but also, you know, you've got a presence about you, so you don't have to do too much. You know, and often people who've had a lot of training and come out of NIDA and stuff, when I'm working with them on screen, I'm like, all that stuff you're doing, just drop it and just be with me. And it's kind of like this. Like, I learned that in radio and podcasts, that people said, if you look at the other guy and have a chat, it'll be the best radio the listeners will ever hear. Was trying to say hilarious stuff and be really interesting. You know, you're going to lose the connection. And acting's the exact same thing. It's like, if you're with me and we're real, don't worry about what you're doing. The camera will come and get it, you know?
I guess that's a difficult thing because I've done live TV before and people say, oh, that must be so difficult. But it's not. It's almost easier to do things live, or if I'm live on the radio versus doing a podcast, because, you know, any moment I could say something and go, oh, let me ask that again. Where if you're live, you just roll.
Yeah,
you just roll with the punches.
You listen.
You just get on with it.
And that's that acting is reacting thing. And, you know, as long as you have the stakes, be in the moment, but I think have the stakes. How important is this moment? And so be in the moment, but also don't forget, is this unimportant to this guy? Or is this important? Or is this important? You know, which you're in the first scene of the whole series and you're trying to get this guy out there to win this prelim final, and he's been knocked out. So you want him to have the smelling salts. It's a stakes of 10 for your character.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so for the Doctor, it's probably a 6. For Ash's character, you know, it's a 7 or 8. So I think I always try to think, and Philip Seymour Hoffman taught me this when he directed me. Think about your status in the scene. Are you a 2 status? Like, oh, yes, sir, sorry. What would you like? I'll get you a coffee. Or are you a 10? It's like, give me a coffee. And also how important, because then it flips the status and the stakes start to get really interesting. And so I always think of those numbers and then forget them and just try to talk to the other person.
Yeah, because it was interesting, obviously, without giving too much away within the scene, that power struggle between head coach, chief medical officer.
Yeah.
Like no,
the player's wife,
like
and
the player's the player's wife in there. It's like, well, hang on. Like, I know what it's like when the coach thinks that this moment is more important, and he knows what's best versus the doctor and what the stakes are and how they can come down on people. But basically, what I'm getting from this is, out of the 4 former NRL players, I was the best. Is that fair to say?
Look, don't call us. No, it's no. I do think that you could do it if you wanted to. I think, Kirsty McGregor, the best casting director in Australia I've worked with, who, she tested you for, she's aware of you, and I think, if you wanted to do it, you could put your hand up and say, think of me. But you're a busy man. You hang out with like dudes like Anthony Maroon and stuff. You've got this podcast. You know what I mean? Could you fit in?
I am looking for an exit strategy, to be fair. And a segue into something new. So I think I might change my LinkedIn profile after today.
Change LinkedIn. And it is the buy round. I guess no one will notice if it's gone because it's not an actual round.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think people would miss this at all. And I've said, I got the piss taken out of me when news was announced. I was making my acting
debut. I backed you up, didn't I?
Yeah, you backed me up 100%. And when those people come groveling, when I'm an A-lister in Hollywood, I'll say, sorry, can we just go back to that moment?
Yeah.
And remember the criticism?
Well, bullies are just showing their insecurity on the outside.
Yeah.
That's what bullying is.
And there's jealousy.
Yeah, jealousy.
There's a few people, and when they were criticizing me, the greenness was oozing out of them.
Yeah,
the envy just poured.
Now, I got that sense when footy players were starting to come onto the show that there were a few footy players going, so what's happening? That I'm mates with, you know what I mean? And, because I reckon all footy players kind of semi-rate themselves, you know what I mean? Or maybe just all blokes kind of, or a certain type of bloke in the back of his head watches TVs and movies going, yeah, I could probably do that.
And a lot of people watch sports and say, I could do that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of blokes watch sport and go, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And I always sit there going, mate, you're a real estate agent. Like, what are you talking about, Graham? Like, that's
I know you wouldn't have done that because you wouldn't have been,
Exactly.
because the coach would have picked up in the warm-up, you're not capable, my friend. See you later.
Exactly.
Mate, even, and I've spoke about this before, that even amongst footballers, so we'd be on tour with England or away with lads with the Bulldogs, St. Helens or the Dragons. And, conversations can go in all sorts of funny areas. But, how do you reckon you go at other sports? Like, say you've got 50 penalty kicks against, the best goalkeeper in the world at the moment, whoever that may be. How many do you think you get? And you get 50. Oh, maybe I had one guy who reckoned he'd nail 45 past David De Gea, who was one of the best goalkeepers at the time in the world. I was like, 45, mate. Are you mental?
Yeah.
Are you? And he was dead set, looked me in the eyes like, no, I would. You don't realise how good I am at penalties. I'm like,
but I can find, it's mystifying.
Or how many rounds would you go against Mayweather or McGregor or Brock Lesnar or John Jones? Oh, I reckon I could do a round. And you're like, you fucking mental. Are you actually mental? It's like, no, I grapple a bit. I've done a bit, but no.
Deep water. That's deep water.
That's just...
Mate, the ring is the loneliest place in the world. You know what I mean? No one else is in there. It's just you and the other. There's no guy to pass to.
Yeah.
There's no big guy like yourself to stand in front of you. You're in a ring. And then there's octagons, which are rings you can't get out of. You know what I mean? It's
you can't even run. You can't even run away. You can't even slide under the bottom rope like WWF. Slide out there. Now I'm done.
Nah, and I think I picked up on that when I was 16, 17. I had a little bit of skill in rugby league, a little bit more skill in cricket, and then when the year came around, the guys got really big because I was good tackling around the legs, and then the guys just had a growth spurt in in that summer of '93, and I came back and went, I'm going into the arts. You know, I'm going to go for the emotional pain rather than the physical. Like I'm not an athlete. And you know, as you're in your 30s, you kind of look back and go, I was actually not that good. Whereas around that time, I'm thinking I probably could play for Australia. But I had the humility enough to go, one, I think I'm good at this creativity stuff, but you know, I don't have what it takes to just have that singular drive and to take that. I don't want to take that guy on, actually. You know what I mean? Whereas you guys have gone, no, let's go. And there's a difference.
Yeah.
You know, there's a fundamental difference. And I can I can walk onto the Olivier stage in London, 1,800 seats, and play John Proctor in the Crucible. I never went to drama school. I got no problems with that. Doesn't make me nervous. You know what I mean? And I'm like, let's go, let's play. I've got this. But what you guys do, which I guess is why I go to games every week, I'm like, what are they doing out there and how do they do that?
Yeah, well, I guess like any specialized profession, you feel at home and you feel alive.
Yeah.
Despite the fact of the I guess what people may call stage fright or fear.
Yeah.
Or perceived like, wow, I couldn't do that. There are a lot of people that say they can, but then sometimes you look at it and you go, oh, there's that other side of the fence or the point of view where people go, oh God, what are they doing? Like sometimes I watch the game now and I'm like, what the hell is this game? Like, oh shit, I used to play this.
Yeah.
I used to love being that person that was out there.
I know.
That didn't really care too much about the potential consequences.
Yeah.
Just in the moment, loving it. Like, again, like I use that phrase, it made me feel alive. It really did. But sometimes look at it now and like, ugh.
Yeah, and I remember listening to you on your concussion podcast talking about privileging the present, which is something I used in my show a lot. You know, when we get into the more medical parts of CTE in Plum, and I just thought that was so well articulated that that's what those guys are out there. There is nothing else. And when I work with, you know, the James Camerons and stuff like that, the artists that are just that step above the really good artists, the people where there is nothing else happening. And I ran into Nathan Cleary with Joey and Bronte, and Joey started talking to his mate, and I said to Nathan, I was amazed by his shoulders. Like I didn't notice that on the field. He's got these huge shoulders. He's quite a, you know, intimidating figure. I guess because all the other guys are enormous, you don't notice. And as a super fan, I said, Nathan, would you mind if I asked you about the grand final? Like, because I don't want to put him out. I know what it's like to be approached. And he goes, yeah, ask me anything, you know, lovely bloke. And I said, did the switch flick? Like, did you go after that 22 minutes? Did you go, right, I watch this, I'm going to win this? Like, what? Here I go, you know, like Michael Jordan style? Or did it just happen? And he goes, I just got consumed by football. Like everything else disappeared and I got embroiled by the game and I just got into footy. And he said, I really didn't know. I was just in every microsecond of footy. There was nothing else. Completely consumed by the intricacies of the game, and then all of a sudden looked up and went, oh my God, I think we can win this.
Yeah.
But it happened from privileging the present or completely letting go of self in a way and context and the world and just being in there. And then anything was possible.
I'm gonna get us to revisit that a little bit later because it's interesting what you say about the stories in and around sport and how they can be translated to the screen. I find it fascinating.
Yeah. Because, I talk to Joey about it a lot too, that before you go on and what you feel.
But just more around, what happens on a sporting field. I imagine, that phrase "unbelievable" gets used a lot.
Yeah.
But if you were to describe that grand final that was the script and a group of Hollywood producers, they go, it's probably a little bit too much cheese.
Yeah.
It's too unbelievable. Like I was in the grand final in England in 2020. Like
and that was a Hollywood script.
With all like COVID, all the subplots in and around it. Again with Penrith.
And you coming back, came
Penrith
back.
3 in a row. Like if you show that script to a group of Hollywood directors, they go, look, we're just going to have to take some of it out. Because it's too much. I don't think the audience are going to buy it.
They would mostly say, is James Graham available to be in this movie. Yeah. That's what they'd be saying.
Anyway, I will like to revisit that. We're going to stick to Plum if that's okay at the moment.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the inspiration for first off writing the book and what the catalyst for it was?
It was, speaking of the pandemic, it was 2019-20 in the pandemic, and I was living in Notting Hill in a basement flat, and Avatar had been pushed back. So I and my girlfriend at the time had left. That had ended, and I thought, I'm going to be in a basement flat on my own for 5 months, and this is not good. And I was trying not to drink at that time, and it was like, this is going to get, like, the head noise is going to get wild in here. And I wanted to write something about why I started writing, which was poetry. And, you know, when life was strange for me growing up in Cronulla and, you know, divorce and feeling a bit of an imposter at school and a bit arty and weird, I wrote poems, and I thought, who's the last guy to write a poem? Because me writing a poem isn't an interesting story. And then I thought of a big brutish guy, like a boxer or a thug. And then I started thinking, well, rugby league, there's poetry in that. That's like poetry and rugby league are probably my two favourite things. And I see them in a very similar way. They're both tough and beautiful at the same time. And living life as an artist is a big sacrifice. And after the fame drops away, what do you do? And then I started thinking about, you know, the plum, you know, the fruit and the hard stone in the middle, and then Peter Lum, the name came out, and the rest was history. I thought, how would Peter Lum end up writing a poem? And I thought, well, he'd have to share with his family. And then the issues of concussion was starting to emerge around that time, where the media was changing its opinion, going from, as you, I think, changed your kind of view on it as well. Like a lot of the, it's a contact sport, bloody hell, toughen up, that's all bullshit, to, all right, we need a doctor in the bunker. It's more important for players to remember their kids' names and have a life than sport. And everything started to shift, and I thought this could all work, and it didn't write itself. And I spent a long time mapping it out, which is something I don't always do. I usually just start writing, but I mapped this thing out for months, probably to prolong the time. And it took me about 5 months, and I had a draft, had 120,000 words book. And then the sun came out, and I went to New Zealand and started filming Avatar again, and they hadn't had a case of COVID. No one even had a mask on the plane. I was like, what? You know, after being in London, people were dropping in. It was scary. It was almost like you could see the vampire in London, you know. And so it was something I probably had to write a little bit for myself as a guy that was trying to change his life, who'd always been the party boy larrikin, who was always up for it. I was trying to shift, and I thought, if Peter Lum can change, I can change. So, you know, it sounds a bit wanky, but he helped me as much as I helped him. And I think that's why the book's connecting with a lot of people, and hopefully the show. It's a very emotional experience.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic that it covers as well, this around men not trying to figure shit out.
Yeah.
And obviously the contact sport athlete, what they do in the next chapter of their life.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And even I spoke about like living in the moment and
the male friend.
Yeah.
You know, what is the nature of the male friend? We're there for a bet and a beer and a joke and to help you move house, but are we there when shit hits the fan? Is that same guy who you talk shit with and do all that stuff with when you go, mate, I'm a bit scared, or I'm in trouble, I've done this. How do men step up? So it talks, and how do we communicate? You know, you being one of the toughest men I've ever seen play a game, how does the guy that has the image of being tough, as Plum's dad said to him, never take a backward step, so he's lived on the mantra of never take a backward step. What happens when you have to take a backward step? How do big, tough guys communicate fear, you know, to each other, and can they help each other? And so I throw all that at guys, going, come on, let's work out a way to care for each other actively. Maybe it's shoulder to shoulder. Women can sit in front of each other in cafes, you know, better than we can. Maybe we're more shoulder to shoulder. But how do we do it as men? So, you know, people say I write about this topic a lot, about male communication. Oh, well, I still care about it, and it hasn't been solved. Not enough men are talking to each other when they're scared, and I'm going to keep talking about it because I want to help.
Yeah, well, and it's okay to accept help.
Yeah, it might even be more brave than not, you know, and rugby league being, you know, the old way of saying bravery was, you know, putting your mouth guard and playing on with a broken whatever, maybe going, I think I might be concussed here, I think I might be scared, or my marriage is on the rocks, or I'm doing this drug, or, you know, I'm thinking, you know, I'm more attracted to this gender than this gender. Like, that's bravery, maybe just as much as playing on with a broken arm. You know what I mean? Like, maybe there's bravery in asking for help, and so I'm presenting that to men and women, to human beings, really, because we're all the same, I reckon. You know, and saying, you know, let's talk about sharing, and maybe in order to share, we share with ourselves. So that's why Plum starts writing stuff down, because if you can communicate with yourself, maybe when you get in a stressful circumstance, you're better at saying it to others.
Yeah, and I'm big on the knowing when to ask for help, accept it. Like I told this story on the Head Noise podcast about my grandfather that I never got to meet. So obviously growing up, mum and dad, pretty normal household, was one of 7. Grandparents on my father's side, they were still alive, had a good relationship with them. They're passed away now. But on my mum's side, it was just my nan. And, you know, you get to an age, it's like, what happened to granddad? Oh, he died. Okay, fair enough. You get a little bit older, you start asking a few questions. What did granddad die of? Like, how old was he? Oh, he's in his 50s. He died of a heart attack. It's like, oh, okay. And then a little bit older, and then, okay, you know, when granddad died, like, you say he died of a heart attack. Well, did they just not have, like, the medical advancement to save him? And it's like, no. And it makes me a bit emotional now, but it sort of, it always stayed with me, that my mum says, no, he was having a heart attack. She was there, my uncle, my aunt, and my nan. And they were like, we're going to ring an ambulance. And he was like, don't you dare ring an ambulance. And that was his dying words to his wife. Don't you dare ring an ambulance. And instead of leaving the house in an ambulance, he left in a body bag.
Yeah.
And you go, like, I admire the toughness. I admire the, like, determination and the will. But I probably would have liked to have met him.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm sure his wife, my nan, and, you know, the 3 kids he left would have wanted a father.
And do you think it was pride, like male pride, that got in the way?
Absolutely, it was.
Solely, yeah.
It was that I don't need help.
Yeah.
And I don't need help. I'm fine. I'm going to crack on. And probably a little bit, I don't want anyone to see me accepting this help.
Yeah,
like,
there's a little bit of embarrassment and humiliation to going,
Yeah. I can't have anyone see me in this state.
Yeah.
Which is wild to think of now. Like, wild.
I know.
Like, it's insane to think that was the mentality, but it was the mentality of a lot of men still now, and maybe not in that acute situation of like,
that's
I'm
extreme.
here or I'm here. Like, I'm either going to live or going to die. Or maybe he just thought he'd be fine and it'd pass. I don't know. But, you know, there's obviously a lot of mental health issues, emotional health issues, where people, I don't know, they don't want to take that step. And that can manifest a little bit later with some catastrophic and...
because it bubbles away.
Yeah.
And, you know, it makes sense that you don't want to know, because it's really scary. You know, going and talking about your childhood's scary. Going to the doctor and getting a full, thorough look at is scary. You know, the news could be bad. But the news and what therapy and stuff can bring up. It's hard. But if you bury it, it's just going to bubble away and it's going to come and get you in a worse way. And if you get information now, then you've got choice. You know what I mean?
So you can solve it. You can look to solve the problem.
Power.
You know what I mean? 100%. I couldn't agree with you more.
And that's what we're trying to do with Plum. I don't have an opinion on it. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a rugby league player. I'm an artist. I've created a story to talk about with blokes like you on podcasts like this that might just stimulate discussion.
Yeah.
And that's the role of art, is to stir the pot with some research, knowledge and fantastic performers and then get everyone going, having an argument. And in England, I think people argue in a friendlier way. They can argue without taking it personally. And in Australia, I don't think we're as good at it. We take it very personally straight away when people disagree with us. And we're quite cruel to each other. And I'd love to be able to get more rigor in how we kind of argue with a smile on your face and be open to having your opinion changed, and you know what I mean, and to having some new information come in that might not represent your worldview, because the world is always changing, and I'm very strongly opinionated, just as much as I'm open to having that opinion flipped on its head, so that I'm driving home and going, wow, that's kind of incredible. I'd never thought of it like that, and that's what I'm kind of, I don't have solutions, and everybody's life is different unto themselves. But if we provoke discussions and stir the pot, then, that can help people get information which gives them power.
Yeah, we can't help but live in a bubble, an echo chamber, have our, unconscious biases. But I think information is vital, and informed choice. And, on the issue of concussion, perhaps I was criticised for a previous point of view. I'm very reluctant to criticise my former self, because I felt like I had information.
That's
and
right.
I was acting an informed choice, and I was willing to suffer the consequences. Like, I knew what I was getting myself in for. I wasn't ignorant. I knew the consequences of potentially playing on with a concussion, or returning for when perhaps a concussion wasn't healed. But I entered into that voluntarily.
Yeah.
And there was probably a little bit of disrespect to authority from my childhood, about where I'm from and my family and stuff like that, around like, well, people don't get to tell me what to do. Like, I decide. But it wasn't just a throwaway. It was here's some evidence to back up this action and why I'm going to take this stance.
Yeah.
So,
and it was representative of the time and the thinking. And that's emerging now. And now, like, more discoveries are leaning not just to CTE, but to, MND and a whole bunch of other things. Let's just get all the information, because I, for one, don't want rugby league to ever stop. But I would really love the players to be okay, then and later. And I think hopefully both can happen, and I guess Plum is about that. But Plum is also kind of about, the fact that the effeminate, sensitive guy can also be a physically tough guy, can also be an expressive guy. Can't all guys be all of those guys? You don't have to pick one of the two guys. And how do we go about sharing stuff with each other before it's too late? You know what I mean?
So that's it. Don't wait till it's too late.
Yeah.
Get the help that I think you fundamentally deserve.
Yeah.
And
it is amazing when you put your hand up. There's a lot of people that love you, and you can walk around thinking, no one cares, or, I won't bother people. People will help you.
Yeah.
Human beings like to help. It's part of what the good parts of us.
And how good does it feel when you help someone out?
I know.
It's the best
That's the
feeling.
connection, isn't it?
So if you're sat there thinking, you can actually help, give someone the best possible feeling by helping you out.
Yeah.
There's not much of a better feeling. And with all the possible ramifications from playing contact sport, I think that's what people need. They need a hand up, not a hand out. And I'm talking about they need help medically. I don't know what a payment is going to achieve. So, just on that. So this is one of the things I've said when discussing child participation or youth participation in rugby league contact sport is, I understand a parent's concern around contact sport and some of the news, some of the knee-jerk reactions, some of the the information that gets portrayed. So one of the things I said was, okay, and that's fine. You're well within your rights to care about all well-being markers for your children. But whatever you do, don't swap contact sport for poetry. And even now, I'm going to add to that. Don't let that love of animals manifest to a job as a veterinarian.
What about the zoo?
The zoo, I'd need to look up the National Bureau of Statistics. But and do some further research. But those two professions. But let's focus on one of your professions. What do you think when you hear something like that?
Oh, I think don't swap. I think do both. I don't really like it when I hear actors reciting E.E. Cummings or something like an actor. But hearing a bloke, hearing a truck driver write a poem about his truck, I would love to listen to that. I love hearing. I think everyone's a poet. And I love hearing the way Australian men speak and people speak about stuff that they love. And in the Australian vernacular, there's a real broken poetry to the way men speak with each other. And I think I've captured that in Plum. And so what I'm saying is, why does it have to be one, Jimmy? Why can't you be a rugby league playing guy that is really fond of alpacas?
There once was a man from Kentucky.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, what I'm alluding to is that poetry writing is more dangerous for well-being markers than playing contact sport.
Why is that?
Well, greater risk of suicide.
Oh, because poetry is depressing.
No, I didn't say that.
Oh. What? Because the poets are often...
Well, if you look at suicide rates by vocation.
Right.
Well-being markers by vocation.
Well, often, I think I know the poets you're talking about. They were in very different periods of history.
Yep.
Where some of them would be killed if they were found writing a poem, and some of them were living in difficult times.
But I think even in modern society,
right?
The curse of creativity, perhaps.
Well, I think there's studies that if kids read out a Shakespearean sonnet, Shakespeare lived in the country in a bucolic landscape, so a lot of his images have to do with cows and bark and dirt and earth. And if a kid with mental issues and mood issues reads Shakespeare and plays around with the scene, it's been proven that her mood lifts, in an incredible way.
Yeah.
And that playing with imagery and connecting with imagery and words and the sound of words and the rhythm of words has been proven to be. I've worked in play readings in prisons, and it is just wild what happens in there with these guys that are isolated all day discussing Hamlet or reading out a poem or doing a scene from a play. And it's all about connection. Connection's the opposite of fear. And when people play a game of footy, passing the ball back and forth with your mate, you've connected to something. It's the same with connecting to imagery and prose and text, and it lights up. Imagery lights you up from the inside, and I believe it's an incredible healer.
Yeah,
So the opposite, but yeah, a lot of the poets, the notion of the tortured poet, absolutely. But in a lot of the cases that they were sent in for electrolysis instead of possibly having a therapist or a healthy diet and a walk. You know what I mean? So they were different times as well. I did not expect to be going here on the Buy Around podcast. This is very
bit heavy.
No, I love it. I love it.
So do I. But I think these are important conversations to have because I get a sense that you want to shine the positive light on poetry and the art form, and that's correct, because you know the benefits it's given to you. And I'm similar when it comes to rugby league. I think rugby league boosts well-being markers. It teaches young men and now young women how to be a good teammate, how to communicate, how to problem solve, how to exercise, how to how to win, how to lose, how to deal with rejection, how to deal with being picked, moving position, whatever it may be. Like, there's so many benefits to playing team sport, especially. And now with the versions like tag and touch and tackle, like that.
You see those Penrith boys, the way they jump on each other after a try, and that's because he went up, he sucked that guy in, passed it to that guy, looped the pass over there, he came in. They all did that together. And the three guys that didn't touch the ball, they hit the ball up before that to make sure they were in the position to do that amazing thing, just so they got that 20 centimetres of space for Taruva to put the ball down. They all did 17 things perfectly, so there was 20 centimetres on the sideline. So they all jump on each other. Is that not the greatest feeling? You know, amazing. Because you've done that. And when I'm out on stage, you know, with a cast of 3 or 13, and we've got a 40-minute scene that's quite complex with violence and rain and all these sorts of things we've got to do, and you go out there and you all perform this thing, and the audience go, as the lights go down, they go, like that. You all walk off looking at each other going, wow, look what we just did. You know, the intermission, they can't wait to get back in here. They're all talking to each other. I can feel it. You know what I mean? And that connection, you know, is what we need. And the worrying thing about society is now, because we've got these incredible phones that are televisions that tell you all this stuff that are designed to keep your attention. The headphones are amazing. So everyone's on the train with the headphones on. You've got 1,000 ideas coming at you. You never really need to connect with anyone, and people are getting more and more into being isolated so they can have their own personal little fantasy rolling through, you know, of rugby league or whatever you're interested in is just coming at you all the time. We feel popular, but we're getting lonelier. You know what I mean? We feel like we're more crowded because there's so much stuff around us, but we're pulling back from each other. So sport and creativity is a way to kind of, you know, work against the reductive nature of online society and digital technology. There's nothing better than kicking the ball with your nephew, and, you know, like we did acting last week. It's beautiful, you know.
And I think, to counteract my own comment about don't substitute that for this, you're right, because I think there's so many benefits to, I don't know if everybody can be creative, but we can all learn how to write, learn how to think. It helps you in a multitude of ways. That there's risk to it. Yeah, there is risk.
Like, what's your favourite jumper that you wore in your career? My favourite jersey?
St. Helens.
If I asked you to write a haiku, like a 5-line, you know, the 575, or a poem, you know, write me a poem about you most love St. Helens jersey, it'll probably bring me to tears. It doesn't matter if it's good, because it would come from you and how you're feeling right now. You're feeling like a poet. You're feeling like someone who wants to express something. You know what I mean? And that's what I love. I love hearing people talk about stuff they feel stuff about. And everyone's poem is beautiful. I truly believe that, if they're connected to it. It's not the flourishes and stuff I'm interested in. I'm interested in a window into people. And I think, you know, in rugby league, it'd be great if teams after weights sat down and all wrote a poem. You know what I mean?
A lot of teams do journal.
Yeah.
About their day.
Yeah, I see Brendan Cowell on his Instagram and stuff, and Finucane with music, and I'm like, I love that. I just want more of that with guys going, be tough and express, do both.
Do you think it's more around personality traits, or it's more about environment, which manifests those up, down, those behaviours, the creative stuff? Is that if you've got a young boy or girl and they go into poetry or writing? Is that about personality type that navigates that way and then spits out this person that is more creative and more looking at the numbers, the potential for some of those darker sides? And is it the same with rugby league? So you've got a young boy or girl, they go into a sport like rugby league. Is it personality type, or is it the environment that shapes their thinking in terms of, I'm going to put my head in that spot no one else will?
Yeah, I mean, your dad spotted it in you and knew that it was a lifeline for you as well, didn't he? He knew that this will help you, son, and you needed it because you were getting on the wrong side of, you were with school and stuff from listening to your story, And I think I had similar stuff at school where I felt a bit much. People say they don't feel like enough at school. I felt a bit much all the time, like I was too loud, too weird, too strange and taking up too much attention, and I couldn't assimilate without noise. I felt I was, and I did keep putting on shows at assembly, which would only get me bullied more. And then I'd do another poem, which got me bullied more. Like I didn't learn. But my mum saw that and she went, okay, we've got to do something here. And also saw that I had a little bit of talent, because by the age of 12 or 13, the plays I was putting on for her and Nan on a Friday night, she's like, they kind of got good. Like every kid does a show, and then yours got longer and they got good. And so she spotted it. A lot of it is about how you grow up. I was lucky. I had an environment. My sister was dancing. My other sister was a singer. It was happening, and Mum was into the arts. And she, even in Cronulla, she was like, I'll take you in to see these French films. You can start auditioning for things when I was 8 or 10. And I started doing ads and stuff. So I think that's part of it too. Can you imagine like the athletes and the artists in rural undernourished areas that we're missing out on because they
don't have the environment.
They don't have the environment. And that's the greatest tragedy is in Australia, and a lot of these kind of, towns that aren't being given the love. There's probably, dozens of Latrells and all the, and beautiful writers and actors that we're never seeing because they're not being given the love that, I was lucky enough to get in Cronulla growing up in a middle-class society, stuff like that I was privileged to have an option to be an actor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When I was 17 years old, my drama teacher came down, started the drama in year 11 and 12. We didn't have drama before then. And he said to me, make waves, you've got it. You've got it, go and make waves. And I went, God, right, really? And he goes, yeah, go and do it. And, that's probably 90% is access. And also that one person that believes in you, isn't it? That one person that makes you go, yeah, I've been thinking that, but I thought maybe I was crazy or a bit up myself. And they go, no, do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that combination and timing and a little bit of daring. I had a little bit of daring, and I put my hand up at a footy surfing school when I'm the drama kid, and it didn't go well. And then to come back and tell that story of Plum in that same town with love and involve the community, I can't even tell you how that made me feel.
Yeah.
That's something really special.
It must be. It must be really special to sort of complete the circle.
Yeah.
Interesting what you say about young people, the environment, their natural gift, even having someone believe in you. Like, you can have that think and then or that thought, I think I could be onto something. And you spoke about your mum and your nan, and then that teacher at school that I can do something, but also sometimes it's interesting. I always find this fascinating. The Jonathan Thurstons of the world, they need someone to tell them they're too small. Do you know
Steph Curry and
you need someone. Need sometimes in these in that
I'll prove
the
it
high
to you.
specialization fields. You need someone to go against.
Yeah,
and you need someone to tell you you're not gonna make it.
Yeah,
or you're wasting your time. Yeah. And then that can go one of two ways. But sometimes I often wonder, are they by design? Like, why would you ever tell a kid they're not going to be big enough? I don't know. I just can't understand the logic in that. And maybe that's just me and my narrow vision of like, I'd never, ever say to a kid, mate, don't bother. You're not going to be big enough. I would only ever say, mate, just enjoy it.
Mate, look at Abby Coruscant last night. You know, you see him afterwards and you're like, you know, he's this little fella, he's a magician.
But why? What? You know? Like, I can't understand why you would say that to someone. If you're, you know, it gets thrown around all the time. Maybe people say those things because they know it's going to ignite a response.
Yeah, and they're probably a bit scared from, like, my old man, you know, God rest his soul, he always said, you know, you're never going to make a living out of that, and you should write jingles for ads, and I'm worried about you'll never buy a house. And when I bought a house at the age of 26, because I was writing a show called Love My Way and acting in it, I finally got a proper wage for 4 years, you know, which is bloody rare in what I'm doing. You know, I've just finished a huge job. I don't know when my next job is. You know, I mean, literally there's just, I'm still working on Plum, but it's like, I don't know when I'm working again.
Yeah.
And that just happens with us every time. CEOs can finish at one bank and go and be a CEO of the next bank. We're back to square one every time. And my dad's saying, you know, you need a proper job. It's not a proper job. You'll never, and that was me going, I'm going to buy a house and I'm going to show him. And he came to the auction of the house, and we had the champagne across the road. And I got a play when I was 14, Donald and the Dragon, and Dad wanted me to go to this cricket camp. And I went and lived with Mum and played Donald in Donald and the Dragon. And it hurt his feelings a lot because I didn't go to the Carl Rackerman cricket camp in Queensland. And at 26, we were having the champagne across on the house, and he goes, I guess old Donald and the Dragon paid off then, didn't it? And we clinked glasses. And it wasn't until I had a bloody house, because, you know, he was an accountant, that he went, yeah, well done. You know, I mean, he was so proud of me, but, you know, he's just worried. And I guess that gave me motivation too, of like, I'll bloody make this work. I'll show you. You know, so Mum believing in me, but also Dad kind of challenging me.
Yeah, challenge.
Yeah, I think I can see a bit of that. And also I got told by a casting director that you're not good looking enough to be a movie star, but you could play like character roles and stuff, and going, oh, okay, cheers, you know. And I wrote my own roles, the first roles, because I couldn't get any of those big films and stuff. And I've had my own weird, wacky career. You know, I just adapted my own novel and played the lead. I don't know who else has done that. You know, I learnt earlier on, my path isn't going to be the conventional, one day I'll go to Hollywood. I'm still not really a Hollywood star. I'm Brendan Cowell. I create my own work, and I have this funny little career, but I've always got something to do, you know, and I'm just starting to write a book on my own again. I'm just manifesting my own creativity. And I think that's my tip for young players, is try to find a way to be creative if you are creative, rather than waiting till you're getting plucked out of the toolkit, because you can't guarantee that.
No, it's funny. I think about these things a lot, and your dad was probably right.
Yeah.
But he didn't realise you were an outlier. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Like, the right advice is, you're not, like, most people won't.
No, you were saying don't do it.
Yeah, but he's probably right. Like, because talent is rare, and not everyone can be an actor or an actress.
Even with talent, don't mean shit.
Yeah,
you then need luck,
so
and you need
luck,
perseverance.
you need hard work. Yeah, exactly.
You know,
so the odds are, like, really,
bit of talent, welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, what next? Good on you.
You run the simulation of you a million times.
Yeah.
And how many Brendan Cowells go on to become an actual successful actor?
Yeah.
Probably not many.
There's that Steve Martin doco that's on Apple at the moment. It's amazing. And he goes, you know, I was funny, but I had no jokes. So I learned how to be a magician. Like, I had nothing to bring. You know what I mean? I just had a bit of comic timing, and it's like, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? It was just, it's so beautiful. And I think, my dad did challenge me to that, and he was very worried. And I remember saying to him over a long lunch we had once, you know, Dad, you need to come to terms with the fact I will never have a real job. I will never go somewhere at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
And he was an accountant and a financial advisor, and he was just like,
but that was his world was like
he was like trying to accept, and I said, I never will. And it wasn't rebellion. Like I wasn't like, I'm doing this so that, you know, I'm an angry rebel on a crusade of destruction and unemployment.
I'm just going to do this.
I'm just like, this is my path, man. Yeah. Like, it's what I'm going to do. And, you know, I always knew this was what I was going to do because I was making up stories at the age of 6. You know, it wasn't like I got into acting. People often say, how do I get into it? How do I get into writing? I'm like, I don't know. For me, it's coming out of my pores. It never has not been. So that's I do it to breathe, to make sense of the world. So it's never been same with guys, you know, with the kicking of the footy. It's just like you see just holding on to this ball, thinking about it all the time. I was always thinking a little story.
Yeah. You mentioned there about about what you're actually up to now. Is this technically your off season? Is this where all the scandals going to come out? And it's like, oh dear, the actors are on the off season. What could possibly go wrong?
The boys.
Yeah. Is that what it's like? Or
mate, I retired my pint glass a little while ago, so there seems to be a little less rock and roll. I'm often in bed with a large book around 9:30 and a herbal tea, I'm afraid to say. All the drama happens inside my head now, more so than, out on the town. I don't really have an off season. I wish I could. I'm not very good at relaxing. I'm a relaxed kind of guy, but I'm in post-production. So I've just seen episode 1 and 2. And I'm noting the director and the editors. So I'll go to a screening after this, and I've got another screening of episode 3 tomorrow. So we're constantly in the mix, and I'm working with the composer on the music because you can't let post-production get away from you. You got the great shots and the great performances, but you got to stay on it to make sure all the best rushes and all the songs are right. And because a whole other tale is told in post-production. And I was kind of hammered for 3 weeks after filming because I kind of worked 16-hour days for 9 or 10 weeks. And I was, being a showrunner, actor, writer, and producer on it, and, in every scene, and the scenes being quite physical and emotional. But now my brain's come back. I'm like, I might write another little book. I don't think I want to go into writing a TV show right now because it's high stress and deadline. So I enjoy writing words, and I've got a little idea for a book about this 14-year-old dude. And so I've just started writing it for me, and I wrote Plum for me, and it worked. So I'm just sticking with that, really.
Yeah, so that is fascinating, and that's a bit of insight. So you create, write, come up with a script, gets approved, you shoot, and then all the things that you've got to do after. It's insane. The
post-production's kind of where it begins. You get the stuff in the can, and then post-production's where the whole thing starts. It's like a whole the job begins at post-production because you can, I don't know if you've ever looked on YouTube where they turn the trailer for The Shining into a rom-com. No. With music, and they cut it. He's just a guy in a hotel with his wife, and they reshape it so it looks like an American romantic comedy. That's possible in post-production. Like you can do anything. And I've got a really clear vision with this show. It's my show. It's my story. So I trust, Wayne Blair is a brother to me. He's directing the first block, and he's doing a marvelous job, but I'm just staying on it. It's my baby. So a whole other, and we don't know when it's coming out, end of the year or the start of next year. So all that kind of stuff. And then I go back to New Zealand in May and June for more Avatar 3. I've got a little bit of Avatar 3 to do. And nice. So I'm really looking forward to going back there. And the guys, I don't know if you've seen Roadhouse, the film with Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor. It's just a good old-fashioned fight movie.
Oh, I've seen McGregor.
But the guys from Avatar
I'm more interested in McGregor talking about acting. That's brilliant.
Mate, he goes, I just love it. He goes for it. He goes so big. It's awesome. But the guys who did the fight on that are the stuntmen on Avatar, so I can't wait to talk to them about that because I loved it. But and my good mate Jermaine Clement, who was in Plum, he's there too. So that's about it. But yeah, I've got another little book going and going to all the Sharks games.
Every single one, home and away.
Yeah, I won't go to the bye, but this week. But
mate, you're on the bye round.
Maybe I'm already there.
This is it, mate. This is what.
But I'm glad we had a win before the bye. Isn't a win before the bye beautiful?
Mate, the best. Like that sets the tone,
doesn't it? And you just do a little bit of this,
the tone.
And all the injuries and
extra massage.
And coming back from 18-0, it was exquisite.
It was a good win for the Sharks.
Yeah,
you are quite the super fan on the sly.
Yeah,
like quite the super.
Almost to the point that probably could be the number one ticket holder. I don't know, just I don't know where that came out of. It's strange.
Hey, wait, can I ask you just quickly to finish talking about Plum?
Yeah.
And you asked before about.
This is a book about the Sharks.
Oh.
So weird.
Why is there so many people there? You know what I'm talking about,
So I can
right?
look popular.
Mate, no, but there's just like fucking people everywhere. We were doing one scene on the same set. There was like
I know
an insane amount of people. What do they all do?
Nothing. But then if you get rid of some of them, the whole thing falls apart, and no one really knows why. There's a lot of people standing around, but you need them. You need them all, and that was a small set.
Well, that was going.
It's kind of a very not low budget, but it's it's an ABC drama budget. It's not you get more on the cable channel, so it was a modest budget drama.
I was going to say, how does my experience in this low budget modest drama compare to an Avatar?
Yeah, well, the crazy thing that's crazy because you have a lot of the people who work in post on set. So they're all there on the 9 computer systems doing all the digital stuff because Jim works, post-production kind of happens as you shoot. He's moving things around and he's kind of making it all there in a lot of ways. So it's very interesting. So there's a lot of time between takes because he's configuring the entire thing with different departments on the set. So there's kind of 100 people from post-production on the set watching you on a stage.
On something like Avatar.
Yeah.
So there's way more people.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of people. But there's a lot of people who are working in the CGI parts,
Oh, yeah.
It's a funny thing. Like I just did a big HBO show, which is like the prequel to Dune called Hidden Hand. And I think it's called Hidden Hand. Maybe it's called something else. I don't know. It's big and expensive on these big sets. But then you look around and there's a kind of overweight boom swinger. And there's another old dude with the headphones on and then some makeup people. And you're like, oh, this kind of feels like a set in Australia. And I think that's what gave me confidence with Avatar. Like I felt really comfortable on the Avatar set to kind of take a lot of risks. And because Jim's so playful and I was looking around and I was like, it's kind of like a set in Australia. I mean, I guess it's kind of like playing at Wembley or something. Like, I remember that great scene in Hoosiers with Gene Hackman where the little humble basketball team are now playing in the state final and they get to the stadium and they're from the Midwest or whatever and they're all like, oh my God. And he measures the court and measures the distance to the hoop and he goes, yeah, that's the same as our gym. And just walks off. And it's like, it's that kind of thing. Like it is the same shit that you're doing. On a different scale, but it still is fundamentally exactly the same. You've got a guy holding a camera because you need a camera, and you've got a guy holding a boom because you need to record the sound. And fundamentally, it's the same thing, and you still got to talk to the other guy in the scene.
Is it more not more intense, but is it stricter in terms of like you got to stay on script? Like. How much more work would you have to do for, say, an Avatar to a Plum?
Plum's a lot wordier.
Yeah, okay.
And we shoot about 8 minutes of drama a day. Whereas, I remember doing a 1 minute scene on Avatar for about 5 weeks. You know what I mean?
Seriously? Why does it take so long?
Because this big action sequence that was, say, a minute and a half or something, and another scene inside the whale's brain and stuff. You shoot for months to get it all right. Yeah, it's often you shoot 5 seconds in a few days and stuff. It's
when you watch it back, you think, fucking hell, it took a lot out there.
Well, I was out there for 2 years, and I'm only in the last bit, and I was there for a good couple of years. But yeah, the key to the action stuff for me was, being up on that boat in a holster chain, and in the wetsuit underneath, and you're quite wet and cold, and you do your 10-second where you jump onto the thing, get the thing, say your line, look over there, do your 5 things. You might have 5 or 6 things that you've got to do, and you've got to do them right, because if you don't do them right, then they cut, and it might be another 30, 40 minutes before we go again, and it was your fault. So you want to be the guy whose fault it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because it's an expensive take. Whereas on Plum, you're like, oh, stuff me line. Sorry, Drew. Sorry, cameraman. Let's go again. No worries, Brendo.
Yeah.
No one can just go again. Because Brendo's fluffed his line or couldn't remember it. But on Avatar, you don't want to get it wrong. You don't want to be the reason why you're going again. So it might be 30, 40 minutes to get all the things, and Jim wants that over there and the sun there, and he's switching the dolphin's tail, and you're now looking over there for the dolphin's tail, not there, and so everything gets configured for the next take, and then 5, 4, 3 action, action, and you've got to, for that 6 or 7 hours that you're up there, and then you have a break and you go back up there for another 6 or 7 hours. I got Jermaine Clement of funny dudes and funny New Zealand dudes, and you're having a joke between takes because you've got to stay sane, but you kind of can't move and you're freezing because they hit you with these fire hoses between takes, and you just...
What do they hit you with, fire hoses?
Just to make the boat wet and make you wet and everything, because we're at sea all the time. So these 2 lads would just go, sorry, Brendo, and you just get hit with water. Then action, and Jim's got on a ladder and... just that focus, and Phil Seymour Hoffman said to me, acting is, 95% concentration, just concentrate. And so you're talking shit for 40 minutes, but just remember the 5 things you got to do. And sometimes jumping over a dashboard, landing on your left foot, turning, saying no that way, then looking back, it's hard. You know what I mean? And you've got to, it isn't a big speech, isn't a big monologue, but getting all that perfectly right as the boat turns. So you're not the reason why we're going again. That's the Avatar experience, really precise focus and serve the beast to the best of your ability. And I just wanted Jim to be happy, because it's so complex what he's doing. If I can make him happy and just be a part of it, then, there we go.
Mate, you're not really selling it to me. You spoke before about how I could get to it. You're not really selling it to me.
It's so boring. Everyone wants to come on set, and then they're like, "Is this it?" You just wait around.
I'd be such a nuisance.
Yeah.
If we've got to be waiting around, I'm going to find someone I think I can manipulate, and we can just fuck around and piss other people off.
Yeah.
But then probably wouldn't get another job.
No.
So
there's the toss up. But we need a few more bad boys. Everyone's very well behaved in the acting industry these days, so maybe this could be welcome.
Stir the pot a little bit. Yeah.
You, Andrew Johns, Paul Gallen, and Spud Carroll.
Bring us in.
Take over the acting.
Bring us in. Mate, I tell you what, everyone would go home full of smiles.
I know.
Workload would be through the roof. Stress would be insane. But you know what? We get shit done. And we would get shit done in half the time and have double the fun.
And most directors would be so terrified to give you a direction or tell you you're doing it wrong. They'd be like, that's fine.
That's the best acting I've seen.
Yeah, ever.
Yeah.
I gave Spud a part because he kept harassing me, and then he got the script. He goes, 2 lines? Is that it? Oh, I'm about a bit of gratitude. Mate, I should have got more than 2 lines. I'm probably, so maybe in the sequel I'll have to boost up his part.
Is there a potential sequel?
Well, with you and, see your eyes light up there. You're like,
no, not the sequel.
It follows the life of an English Super League
Well, we need the prequel, so I can be part of the coaching and giving you the tactical nous around.
Yeah.
Plum, listen, I know you're this Aussie legend, but listen, come here.
Yeah.
We're here in Hull now. All right.
Yeah, and like set in those picturesque towns like Bradford and Wigan.
Yeah, we'd have to fly home. Yeah,
beautiful towns.
Mate, I think
if you
need someone to bounce into the ABC and sort of help with the pitch,
be good to have you in on a pitch because you'd be like, "What, you disagree with this guy?"
Yeah.
I haven't tried that.
There's a not a steward's inquiry.
But you've always had a bit of charms, right? And you've always been a cheeky guy. Is this when I talked to you about the acting? You were like, "Let's rock." You were ready to roll. Has there been? Do you watch movies with The Rock and stuff and go, "Should have been me"? Did I awaken something, or has it always been dormant?
I think, like I say, I think after watching The Trip, I think I could do that. Like I was bad for after watching that. Like if I went out to a restaurant, like having the like. You know how they go visit the Michelin star restaurants?
Yeah.
And then they're like, come, Mr. Bond.
Yeah.
You derive just as much pleasure from killing as I do. Like when you go to drink the wine and just playing Guess the Bill. Like,
so what would you be touring around the world trying? Like, because they were trying food, right? They were going to Italy and trying restaurants.
Yeah, they've done Italy. They've done trip to Spain.
Coast and stuff. What would you be trying? The great pies of England or muffins?
I reckon I could. I would love to replicate the trip Australia.
Yeah, right.
Maybe me and you could pitch that. Me and you go to Michelin star restaurants. You go through that little bit of battle with, play the character of you. You play yourself and I play myself. I'm like teasing you with drink like Steve Coogan does.
Yeah,
Steve Coogan when he's
sober
off,
isn't he?
Yeah, he's sober for a little bit and then he gets
on the
back
Diet
into it and then he. So I could be.
That's
like,
a nice tension. And we've got the arty guy and the sporty guy.
Yes,
you know what I mean. That bouncing off because you need juxtaposition. That's why like Swingers and Sideways works because they're different dudes, right? You know what I mean? They have that nice dynamic contrast.
Look at the conversation, or listen to the conversation that we've already had.
How's Matty John's going to feel? Because he's going to see me. He's going to go, why don't I? Is he coming as well?
I mean, there's no reason why
Anthony Maroon? He could drive?
Not Maroon could drive. Oh,
I love Maroon. Can't we get Maroon?
But maybe we could get Uber to sponsor it. So like
true.
Maybe Maroon could be the Uber driver.
That's not bad.
You
That's
know what
not
I'm saying?
bad. We'll be the new Fletch and Hindy.
I think there is a show to be made in Australia, top line restaurants with some great conversation artists.
Yeah. What about low level restaurants like affordable trattorias?
You see,
Subways of Australia.
You talk about the like juxtaposition. I think you need the yin and the yang. So you need
you're
knock
right.
around.
Degustation.
You need knock around blokes in fine dining, or you go C-suite executives, top end of town, in the the taverns of the Shire. Or
the highs and lows.
You need the opposite effect. So that's what it's about for me is, some knockabout lads, rugby league, working class, but they've done all right through their chosen domain of sport or acting, theatre. And here they are. They land in a place that they really probably they feel a little uncomfortable, a little bit out of their depth. The 7-course tasting menu comes out, and we're a little bit like,
pancreas.
We're having like quail's feet, with a
foam,
foam inspired carrot. We smell the wine. So, there's a suggestion.
I'd just smell it. I wouldn't.
Just go. Oh, what note? You mean we've got to make tasting notes?
Yeah.
You couldn't sip it, so I'd be like, oh, Brendan. There's a suggestion.
It's delicate.
A suggestion of
cigar
celery.
Box.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
You see, there's something in this, mate.
Something. Yeah. Let's. Yeah. Bounce it around.
Not only just that, pitching. We spoke earlier about how stories can be inspired by true life events, by sport, and how it is the unbelievable. Things happening. It's the best reality TV. I don't understand why people watch reality TV shows when you've got sport. It's way more interesting, way better than anything that someone can manufacture because it's natural. It's There's so many variables. Could more stories be inspired by sport, or have documentaries overtaken that space?
Yeah, I think the sports documentary's having a real moment, isn't it? And, we're hoping to tap into a bit of that, kind of crowd, because from Last Dance, kind of onward, and the boxing, it's, and, Beckham, and people are just tuning into that and wanting to see behind the veil, and those Netflix documentaries, they're a bit of an advert, who knows how much truth we're getting, or because the athletes kind of produce them. So they're very much like, look at my complex yet wonderful life that I lived at the top. But, people are fascinated by seeing behind these characters. People have always wanted to know the truth. People, the Beatles were together for 7 years, and there's still heaps of stuff being made about what happened. You know what I mean? People are fascinated about it. But you get exposed in sport as to what your character is. And I think that's kind of what's fascinating to me. And as I was saying before, the stakes. I love watching the coach in the presser after the game. If you're a young actor and you want to look at emotions, watch those Michael Maguires and Ricky Stewarts and Benji Marshall after the game, and a tight loss where they feel a bit ripped off, or they're so proud of their young player. Like if you're an actor, watch those coaches. It is unbelievable to see the players and the coaches, the emotions. Like being at an airport, right? And you see the amount of emotions. People just raw.
People saying bye, people saying hello.
God, and the loss and the moving away. That's an acting extravaganza, of human truth. And I find in rugby league, there's the brutality, then the beauty, the result, the hopes, the dreams. It's a story, and you see those coaches afterwards and the way they try to express these emotions and without offending people, without getting a fine, it is incredible theatre. And, I said to Matty Johns once, you're always talking about the theatre of rugby league and, it's just the theatre of it. I said, I'd never seen you guys at the theatre, but you seem to refer to the theatre a lot in sport, you know what I mean? And, when are you guys going to come to the theatre so you can keep referring to the theatre of sport? Poetry in motion,
Poetry in motion.
So they have a lot of similarities.
I tell you where you want to see real emotion is when someone tells them they're late for check-in and they can't make the last flight out of Sydney. Now that is where anger is. But the gate's still fucking open.
I know. Those airport shows, that's why I have those airport shows, because people take it very personally.
They do.
That this plane has done this against you.
Yeah, and the person behind the check-in desk
is like, I didn't invent the airline.
Is just being an arsehole and going, I don't want to let you on this plane, mate. It's like, no, you're late for check-in is closed.
People,
but what could you can do something? Just let me through. It's like,
human beings tend to think that the world's has compiled this whole bunch of stuff just to injure them. You know what I mean? And if you look at an airline and go, how did the thing do it in the first place? It's like with the Wi-Fi. Like the Wi-Fi's down. How was it ever up?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Next time the Wi-Fi's go down, just give it a round of applause for ever working. Now you got all your channels on there. You just sent a message to someone in Tokyo and they got it 3 seconds later. Let's just give the Wi-Fi a bit of a round of applause instead of going, how dare it drop out on me.
Mate, this is all content for our show, by the way, for our fine dining experience.
We need a name.
We'll work on that.
Yeah.
With all the sports stories, is there obviously with Plum and the book, and you've got this idea to write another book, and I'm assuming the goal is to create more content,
stories.
And write more stories. Will you look to sport again?
I don't know. Do you know it was really hard? It was really hard to get the book published. So hard. Everyone said no, except for a couple. And because they said, why is Brendan Cowell writing a sports book? Who wants to read about sports? People that read books don't watch sport. People that watch sport don't read books.
Because the best story,
I said, it's not a sports book. He plays rugby league. And fiction is about opening up a book and being taken somewhere.
Yeah.
it's not about rugby league. It's about this dude dealing with human shit that everyone's facing. Just happens to be in this kind of really rough and tumble working class arena that this guy lives in, and where he's a hero in Cronulla, but that also comes to bite him because he can't escape. When he wants to isolate, he can't escape because he's the king of Cronulla. You know, so it's that duplicitousness, that juxtaposition there. And it was very hard because people had this blanket, and it was the same with making it as a TV show. People like, oh, rugby league, like, will people from Melbourne watch it? Or, you know, do people don't like that, and people have these preconceived things, and it was very hard to sell, you know. And so that would make, because we worked so hard to get this bloody thing made. And also the show isn't a crime of the week, you know, police show and stuff. And there's a lot of procedurals now, and people want a genre, you know, and it isn't, you know, it's a drama, relationship thriller that I've been calling it. But it was very hard to kind of open people's mind to a book about sport and a TV show in the rugby league world. It took a lot of creative marketing from myself and the producers. And but I think sport will always be a part of my storytelling because it's such a big part of me, you know. And I used to search for great acting, and I used to search for great writing. I used to try to be funny. And then somewhere in my 30s, I started to play to my strengths. And that was write what you know and work off what Brendan's good at and what Brendan's got and what I'm interested in. I just started referring to myself in the third person.
That's all right. Mate,
how long have I been here now? I'm losing my mind.
We've sucked you in.
But no, you know what I mean? I just started to go, poetry and rugby league is me. Play to your strengths. You know, what are you good at? I guess it's like Craig Bellamy with coaching. It's like getting those players to do these two things that they're good at. You know what I mean? And suddenly you've got a great team. And yeah, I would love to write more about sport. I would love to have that mashup of worlds. And I love the world of it. And I think our sequences, our rugby league sequences, are really authentic.
And you also have written about the worlds that you know as well. And obviously you mentioned about Sobriety. The movie that sort of inspired that. Can you talk to us about how that came about?
I wrote a play called Reuben Guthrie.
Sorry, the play.
That ended up a film that I directed. And Reuben was about, I wrote it in 2009, I think, the play that was a big hit, and then the film, to a lesser degree, a big hit. And Australian film is very hard to get an audience. I think when people go to the movies, they tend to want to go and see the bigger budget or the stuff with the big American stars or a Thor or something. And so it's hard to get people to go and see an indie Australian film. And but the play was a big success. And it was around 2007 or 8, I just had a year off alcohol where I went, I'm just going to stop. And it was funny because I got a lot of pressure from a lot of people going, just have one. Why are you doing that? How dare you? Come on, mate. You know, surely.
People get offended.
And people got really offended. And I thought it was a really good premise for a comedy, which was man tries to not drink beer. People who love him harass him to do the opposite, you know, and in all aspects of his life. And the play was incredibly resonant and kind of played for a year and went to all the different states, and it was a great ride to be on. And I probably was very similar to the character while I was, you know, living off the joys of a hit play. And, you know, I was always up for it, you know, and when I went out for a drink, I didn't necessarily know when I'd get home. And I liked to tie one on. I wasn't that daily kind of guy, but I was just, when I did it, I hit it. You know what I mean? And once my dancing shoes were on, you know, often the sun was coming up, and I thought, oh, that was that's a funny idea of a few quiet beers. You know what I mean? And the belly laughs and the adventures and the blokes and the music, and it was awesome. But I just got to the point, about 5 years ago, where I went, okay, you're in your 40s now, and you're still behaving like you're 22. Like, you know, I might just try something else, really, and see what life's like if I really go without it instead of just going without it, going back on, because that was becoming a bit of the off the wagon on the wagon thing, and I thought maybe I'll just admit defeat in this arm wrestle and go, I think you win. And then life's been pretty spectacular ever since, just because it's more me trying to go out there and moderate was a struggle. So going out there knowing that that's not something I need to worry about, going to a wedding or a dinner or out with the boys, it's so easy now because I've got an answer. You know what I mean? I don't have to worry. I don't care if someone's pissed off or wants me to stay out or is hassling me. I'm like, I don't give a shit, mate. I'm not doing this for you, and I think that's a big part of why a lot of people struggle to do it, because they're worried about what other people think and mates and how they'll do on the Bucks night or the wedding or whatever. And it actually becomes, you find yourself being a lot more present at things. You remember a lot more things and you behave. You end up dancing with a lot more aunties and helping people park the car and holding babies and bringing out the food and you just have this other experience that's really beautiful. And I definitely didn't miss out. I had a great time, but I'm just trying something else now, and I'm enjoying it. And I just made a TV show of my novel. I mean, it's crazy. Pretty cool. It's crazy. It just how much that gave me deep in my chest. I kind of can't believe it. And all that gratitude stuff. Like it's pretty beautiful, and that's happening because I'm tuned in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, so that's kind of was what Reuben Guthrie was about. But it ends up, it's something that I like to discuss. Like Peter Lum struggles with it as well, and he's got the back pain, and so he kind of uses alcohol as a numbing device as well, like a friend, almost like Panadol. You know what I mean? So it's not so much these big sessions, it's this constant kind of relationship with it to kind of get him through. And so people have different relationship with substance, and the two countries I've spent most of my life in, Australia and in England, it is the national pastime. As soon as the sun's out in England, you can't walk on the pavement. You know what I mean? Because it's just got pale blue blokes drinking pints and you can't, everywhere. It's an 18-degree day. And they're like, this is beautiful. You know what it's like. And in Australia,
it used to make me very angry, actually.
Did it?
Yeah. It was like, I'm here every week, rain, hail or shine. Yeah. And now I can't get
fair weather friends.
Like now, like the bar is 4 deep.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Yeah.
Where are you on a dull Tuesday?
I know.
In January. Hey?
Exactly. I was in a bar the other day buying a round of drinks for everyone, and I just remembered how frustrating the line was and trying to get a little connection with the bar, trying to get that I'm special, And I'm like, this is a nightmare. Because as soon as you get your drink, by the time you drink, you got to join the line again. And the urinals, what a terrible place to be.
Mate, there's got to be a better process for ordering drinks than what currently exists, like the stand at the bar. I'm not a fan of the QR bring to table. Cause that can
mysterious. I found that just stay at home and drink. That's a great way to solve it as well.
Stay at home and drink, that is, and then just invite people over.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the delicatessen take a ticket.
That's not bad.
Are you picking up what I'm putting down here?
Yeah,
so
right.
You go to the bar. Before you get to the bar, there's a ticket thing. Oh, I've got number 47.
Like a Charlie's
it's on
Chicken
number
or
30,
whatever.
35. Next, 35. And you show the ticket. Oh, can I get 4 of them, 2 of them, and a bag of crisps? I'll make it 2.
I often used to think at the footy, it'd be good if those chairs had a tap. And you can just like put your card in and just fill your own beer up and be at the SFS or Allianz and just have it there.
Well, I reckon
every seat, and also you could have something connected to your penis, and you could urinate. In the chair,
just like an actual shitter as well, like a toilet.
Is this a late night podcast?
Matt, you're onto something that all these suburban grounds that are begging for money. Penrith's getting 200 million. Shark Park. You know what you do? Number one, find your campaign.
Sharks lager in
Sharks
your seat.
lager in your seat. You don't even have to move. Boom.
Get memberships up.
Memberships up. That's what instead of building this new fancy new leagues club.
And that might get me the number one ticket holder if I pitch that.
Mate, that is a winner. I'll buy a Sharks membership and come to every home game with you.
Yeah.
If there's lager at the seat.
Yeah. Sharks lager in the murky waters. Awesome.
And then everyone's doing the jaws.
Yeah, exactly.
Hang on a minute. Hang on.
Yeah.
Wait. I'm just pouring this beer. Fucking brilliant idea.
I know. You never have to leave. They've got the Quest Apartments now on the corner of Shark Park. Have you seen that?
Yes.
They built a hotel block. I don't know if Volandis owns it or something, but I think Volandis built it, but it's on the field.
Yeah,
so
it's a bit
Nico
weird.
could be kicking it from the sideline with his moist hair, and there's just people watching Shrek in their underpants and having cereal and stuff, and you're like, this is weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of great. You could book it out and watch the game.
I suppose if you buy an apartment, I suppose
odd.
if you buy an apartment there or you check into a room, that you know what you're getting yourself in for. So you can't be surprised. You can't be like, bloody hell, it's loud out there.
Yeah, I know. But it's like, I thought they might move it a bit back, but it's kind of on there.
But I think, if suburban grounds need money, forget the liquor paint, forget the upgrading facilities, new stands, get
Do a wee in your seat.
wee in your seat and lager on tap there.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. I reckon that is pretty much close to wrapping us up. But before we do, we've obviously got 4 questions.
Yeah, then I've got to do a wee actually.
Yeah, do you need to go?
No, let's do it.
Sorry. In terms of where your heart's at now, obviously you've spoken about writing, you've spoken about producing, directing, and actually acting. Where do you see yourself? Like, what's the main focus point?
Well, I think I need to be creative every day or I'll go mad or madder. So I wrote a bit of my book this morning and I'm happy. I need to do some exercise.
Or are you not Are you not going to pigeonhole yourself? You're like, I'll do whatever comes my way.
Well, I don't have any say in it. Like, I can't dictate the terms. There's 5 actors who can go, I'll be doing this. You know what I mean? The rest of us are like pigeons to a chip. I put down an audition yesterday for something filming in Serbia. I don't know if I'll ever hear back about it. I'm still auditioning for things. I'm not a name enough to bankroll anything. You know what I mean? I get offered little parts, but, so I'm still just, like every other actor. Just
so you're not like the Benji Marshall that goes, I'll do a bit of media stuff. Oh, no, I'm going to do coaching.
Well, I don't play golf instead of I don't play. Do you know what? That's my main issue with rugby league shows is too much talk about golf. I hate golf.
You don't get that on the bar round, mate.
Mate, why is everyone talking about golf? If I ever play golf with other men in polo shirts in my 60s talking about my stocks and shares, just shoot me in the face. Mate, like Seinfeld said, golf stands for get out, leave family. And what did Oscar Wilde said? Golf's a perfect way to ruin a lovely walk.
I think that was
or was it George Bernard Shaw? One of those quotey guys.
I think Winston Churchill,
maybe he said it. Now the golfers, they don't even push their own buggies. They've got a remote control because it's too much exercise. And you think about this sport, basketball, enormous men, how much space do they need? Court. And look at these guys, how much space they need for their game of golf. Suburb. Like and I turn on
it's a lot
Braith
of
and
land.
Astor, Wade Graham, all these guys are going, and I hit this. I don't care, mate. I don't care about your golf game. Talk to me about the Tigers, the Sharks, the 6 again, the head high, the hip drop. I'm not here for, what I mean?
Which coach is going to get sacked?
Which coach is going to get sacked?
Who's the origin bolter? I want to know about the origin bolters.
I think Volandis needs to do a sweep through rugby league media and get rid of all golf talk. Because I'm tuning out when Cameron Smith's like, I think Cameron Munster hit a 4 over. Wow, did he? You know what I mean? Was he wearing tartan pants? You know what I mean?
Probably.
No more golf chat. Can you start generating?
I'm taking it you're not going to Cronulla Golf Club on the way to the Sharkies.
No, I'll keep doing my thing.
Yeah.
I've had a funny little career, and if something else happened, I can't think of anything else I'm good at. you know, and that's one of your questions, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Is that the one you just asked me?
No.
Oh.
Well, we'll move on to the 4 questions that we have for each guest. The dream spine. So you 1, 6, 7, 9. If you had the opportunity to put a spine together.
At 7 would be my friend Andrew Johns.
He's very popular amongst the guests.
And if he was too busy with his Channel 9 duties, I'd have my boy Nico Hines, who I hope plays number 6 for New South Wales this year. I was thinking about hookers, and I think that's not what a number 9 is. I grew up watching Roy Simmons and the way he ducked under and how kind of tenacious he was and clever and Royce, whenever Royce was playing, it was just my dad loved, like everyone loved him, and he was tough as anything and cheeky, and I loved him in that Benny Elias era. Like, but I'd probably have Roy Simmons as my number 9, John/Hines at number 7, and I really think probably the best 5'8" I ever saw, and probably the best Origin 5'8" I ever saw was Laurie Daly. He was so tough and strong and amazing with the ball. So I think it was a toss-up between him and Brett Kenny. I grew up watching Sterlo and Kenny, but I'd have Laurie Daly in there. And I hate to have a Queenslander in there, but the amount of times I watched Billy Slater disappoint Sharks fans in the last 5 minutes going, we've got this, we're through to the semis. And then Slater went, no, I'm going to do this. And how he revolutionised the fullback position. I've never seen anything like it with Slater. So I'd probably have him at number 1 with the Peach probably on the bench as the other fullback.
That's a pretty decent spine. Slater, Daly, Johns, and Royce Simmons. I don't think we've had that combination before. That's pretty impressive. If acting didn't exist, what do you think you'd be doing?
Yeah, well, I think about it all the time. I mean, I write the books, as you know, but I guess acting meaning, you know, the entertainment game. I reckon it'd be something in rugby league, or I think I'd like to teach kids, or maybe teach in areas where people needed English teachers or something like that, which is something I might still do. Regional areas or something with English. And I love music, so I also fantasize about a little record store or music store. I've got a lot of CDs and I still listen to CDs. And I also am very fond of the alpaca, which is like one of in the camel family. I think camels are good at carrying people. Llamas carry rice, or maybe it's the other way around. Alpacas are kind of good for a cardigan or two. But I have a stuffed alpaca in my flat, and I just love the alpaca, and I think I could farm alpacas. So clearly I've got no plans outside of acting.
Yeah, I was going to say alpaca farming.
I don't know, man. I would love to do something else because it's so up and down what I do. The writing side of it, you know, is a little, I don't know. I feel like somewhere in my life I could easily take a left, you know, and go and do something else.
Can I just ask you, with writing, how much of it actually gets used?
Oh, the TV?
No. In terms of like, so say you spend 16 hours writing, like what proportion of that actually is like
it's
used material?
Well, they say write drunk and edit sober in a way. Like I think that's, you know, I was reading the Rick Rubin book on creativity, and he really believes in that kind of vomitous first draft, and I do that. Like try not to get the critic involved too early. So I definitely write lots of words. Like this morning I wrote a lot, probably wrote 2,000 words this morning. And then tonight I'll go back and probably carve that up to 800 or 1,200 or something. So I kind of revise on the go. But I think you can't revise straight away. You've got to really let rip because you got something to get out, and then get clever about it later. But I don't know. I think when I was younger, I'd probably only half of what I write to get used. But now I've got a bit more craft about me, and I'm writing in more structured environments with TV and stuff. So yeah, most of it's getting used, I'd say.
Yeah. Where do you write at home, or do you go to other environments?
At the moment, because it's the first time I've had my own home for about 7 years. I've been a gypsy all around London, Europe, working, and now I've got a little flat in Kingsford, so I've got a full set up there, and you know, it's beautiful.
Do you ever sit outside?
I'll sit outside and write notes, and I'll sit outside and have breaks and cup of tea and watch the bats come over and look at the clouds and stuff. But no, because I like to have the mouse and the screen elevated for my, you know, for good posture and everything. I like a setup. And I put some classical music on a bit softly, no words, because I can't have any music with words, or I start thinking about the story. So I kind of listen to Chopin, I have a cup of tea, and I have the screen elevated, no internet happening.
Yeah,
phone away.
No distraction.
No.
You are completely focused.
In the mix, yeah.
You're not in the WhatsApp group saying, oh, sorry, lads, I'm just
No, in the break, I'll go outside, you know, go do a wee, get a sparkling water, go and stand on the balcony, and then I'll check the messages, see if anyone's called or whatever. But no, it's like the Nathan Cleary thing, like, not that I'm winning grand finals with my writing, but you got to be in it. You got to get consumed by whatever you're doing, and then it's almost like it starts to do it. And I found that with acting on stage, like sometimes I've stopped thinking and the words are flowing, and that's when you know you're in a really magic spot, and that's what I'm always trying to get to.
Create that state of flow.
Yeah, exactly, where it's almost like there is no me. And there's this story, and I'm helping the story, and it's moving, and I'm writing stuff I didn't know was in my head. And that's the kind of holy grail, if you can get to that. But I love writing. I think about it. I can't wait to get home and do it. I'm so blessed like that.
Yeah.
And because I'm mad, I think if I didn't have that, I'd be in real trouble.
Yeah.
You know, so creativity's given me somewhere to put the kind of circus that lives inside my head and all these emotions. I've always had so many emotions. And
it's like an outlet.
Oh, it's beautiful, but it creates something.
Yeah.
And it helps people.
A positive out. Yeah.
And it brings people, you know, like you said, on that set, there were 70 people there, and I'm like, my little story did this. Like, it's insane.
Yeah. A sliding doors moment, you think about the alternative happening.
Oh, yeah, right. The alternative happening. Oh, I think I mistook what Sliding Doors. That's the Gwyneth Paltrow movie, isn't it?
Well, there is, yeah.
So it's about a moment where you could have met Gwyneth Paltrow or you didn't. No, I think about the you know, the moment with Donald and the Dragon and my mum and my dad, where I could have gone to the Carl Rackerman Cricket Club, but I also think I kept trying to not be an actor, and that was always going to happen. You know, it was, and I think about. Yeah, I had an audition for Avatar, and I was stuffing it up, and my grandmother had passed away when I was on the third day of the audition, and then I found out when her funeral was and that I could fly back, and then I decided in the break of the audition, and I wasn't going good. I'm going to fly back and go to. That's what I'm going to do from LA. I'm going to fly back to Nan's funeral. Then as I walked back in, I went, you know what? I don't care what happens in here, because my Nan, she loved me, and that's a bigger deal. And I'm going to go and connect with my family. And then when I got in there, I wasn't intimidated by James and the cameras and anything anymore. And I went, fucking watch this. And I just let rip. And I started grabbing people and improvising and everything. And it was almost like my Nan was like, come on, show them what you got. And I got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Kind of from letting go of the importance of it and just being creative. And I think that was like my nan's parting like wish for me. Was like, come on, do the thing that you used to do, you know, when you were 10 or whatever. And so that was a life-changing moment. But yeah, I've never met Gwyneth.
Speaking of Gwyneth, Last question. The most interesting person that you've met along the way?
Oh, I reckon I've met some really interesting people. Probably the most interesting person who's had the most lasting effect, who I've spoken about before, was Philip Seymour Hoffman, who probably the greatest actor I ever saw, and he directed me in True West at Sydney Theatre Company, and he passed just over 10 years ago, and he just taught me everything, and the way he talked about truth, just don't lie to him. He always said about acting on stage, just never lie to him. And he gave me all these tools to make sure you just never told a lie, because people can tell when you're lying. Just never, ever lie to them. And taught me about stakes and status. And I just had the most incredible conversations with him about relationships and family and people. And no matter how much money or fame or whatever you've got, a text from your brother can destroy you. It doesn't matter who you are. Like, we're all the same in that way, that we can all get affected by the same little bits of stuff, that the trivialities, which is what Bukowski talks about. Like, we all get injured by the same stuff, and you know what I mean? And he just talked about acting and people in the most direct and honest, beautiful way. He kind of changed my life and the way I told stories, and getting to work with him, before he was he died was probably, just an incredible blessing. Yeah. And yourself. And Gwyneth Paltrow. No, I didn't. I've been fortunate to meet so many amazing sportsmen and so many incredible artists on my journey. I've had a weird and wild journey, and I feel like it's just starting as well.
Yeah. Well, Brendan, it's been fascinating to have you on. It's been great conversation. I've loved it. It's gone in some weird and wonderful places.
Yeah.
It's been really cool to sit and chat with you. So I think all being well, we'll have you back on once Plum is about to launch, and we can give it plenty of love. But thank you for inviting me to be a part of the show. I loved that experience. It was fantastic, and I really appreciate you coming on here and telling your story and having this conversation for our listeners. And I think we've got a couple of prizes.
I don't know if there's a question or what we need to do, but I'm willing to send 2 signed copies of my book Plum to the buy round's most loyal.
We'll find a good home for them.
Followers, yeah.
Brilliant.
But thanks, man. It's been good to get to know you, and thanks for all your help on the show too. It was amazing.
Yeah. And if anyone needs my number, you've got it.
I need to get you an agent, I reckon. Let's go big time.
Thanks, Brendan.